not as good as I'd like it to be, but I guess that doesn't matter. I created a slide presentation too because I just wanted to show you what I've kind of had enough with. But along those lines, have you guys gotten like sick and tired of the quarantine, sick and tired of the news, sick and tired of basically everyone? Oh yeah, it is kind of low, isn't it? Let's see if I can raise that a little bit and also put my headset on. A little bit last minute. That's kind of as for those of you who have been on my live streams, you know that I tend to actually, let's see here, I tend to consistently always perform uh, best at the end. All right. Well, Marcos, you don't have to stay here if you think it's disgusting. Oh, you're talking about what I'm talking about. All right, cool. So, you know, I've just had enough, and I don't know if you have or not, but I wanted to share what I've come across lately and just how ridiculous everything is, and how ridiculous because of politics, because of big tech, how insane the world seems to be. And so I don't know that I got as far as I would have liked to in this slide presentation. That's generally the way things happen. But I did want to share a bunch of things with you. I wanted to share some things that, you know, if you're on the left, you might be upset. If you're on the right, you might be upset. I can't say that anyone's necessarily going to be happy. But, you know, I've given up on television. I've given up on cable news. I've given up on so many different things that I used to actually find some enjoyment in. But I just find so much of it is bullshit. And it seems kind of insane. So I also have a gift that I want to give everyone who tunes in today. And also, if you'd be willing to share this once we get into it, if you think it's worthy of sharing it, then please go ahead and do. I would appreciate it because I just think that we deserve better. We deserve better as citizens of the world. I live in the U.S. Definitely, I feel that as a U.S. citizen, we deserve better. And let me kind of tell you where, like, how this all let me kind of dive into it, and then I guess we can get into it. So see if let's see if I can get my slide presentation to work here. And I'm not exactly sure how I do that. Hopefully, it's going to be easy, but I promise you that it should be worth it. Let's see here if I can do my computer. So let's see if I go like this. There we go. All right. Hopefully you guys see the slide. Do you guys see the slide? It says coronavirus on it. Just let me know if you see coronavirus. That'll help me know that at least you're seeing what I'm seeing. I think there's like a minute delay here. Yep. Okay, cool. So let's go. All right. So, you know, the warning, as I said, this is really, it's not about making anyone right. It's not about making anyone wrong. It's a little bit off center. I don't know if I can fix that. Half the screen. Huh. Okay. I'm looking at, oh, you know what it is? Hold on a second. I see. You know what? Thank you for sharing that with me. Let me figure out how I fix this right now. Maybe, let's see. Thank you. I don't want it to be that way. Let's see if maybe I can just do it. Uh, Hold on, guys. Thank you for telling me that, though, because I would have just kept going and you would have only seen half of it. So let's see if I can change the preferences so that it's not a double screen. Can I do that? All right. All right, you know what? We can always do it this way. Screw it. Let me just see if I can make this bigger and get rid of the slides on the side. How do we get rid of the slides on the side? Oh, isn't that just like right here? Yeah, there we go. And then I should be able to, there we go. Sorry for this, guys. I must, oh, screw it. All right, we'll just go. Doesn't matter if you can see it. All right, so, and do you see me in the corner? Am I being seen too? Is that, I think I am. So I'm interested where you guys are dialing in from, where you're tuning in from, and whether this is your first live stream or not. We'll get to that after we kind of dive in. So we're going to talk about the coronavirus. We're going to talk about really just whether or not you've had enough, and then who can you turn to. So, as I said earlier, this is not politically correct. I'm going to probably make some people upset, but ultimately, this is just where I'm at. And I've just kind of thrown my hands up, and I wonder if you feel the same way. So who can we trust, right? This is one of the questions I have right now. Yeah, I see it. Cool. Thanks, baby. Who can we trust? This is one of the questions. And I don't think there's very many people we can trust. I don't think there's any network that we can trust. I don't think there's any officials that we can trust. Here's the World Health Organization. You listen to certain politicians and they praise them. You listen to other politicians and they bash them. Are they in bed with China? Who knows, right? But, up until January 14th, they were saying that there was no clear evidence of human-to-human contact. Insane, right? On medication. And this to me just boggles my mind. So, hydrochloroquine, right? And there's been a lot of talk about hydrochloroquine. I want to show you a few things about it, and then I want to share what I've seen on TV about it, and I don't know if that gets me in trouble or not. If it does, we'll know why. But here we go. All right, so let's see. This is a video. Let's play this video, and let me see if you can. I do think I need to turn this on. Let's see here where I do that. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this. Well, first tell me if you can hear the applause, because that'll tell me if. Do you hear the applause? Or the air horn? Let me know if you hear that. You hear it. All right, cool. All right, so here's a snippet from stuff from CNN, from Fox, and here we go.
Many, many are taking it. I happen to be taking it. Hydroxychloroquine? I'm taking it. Hydroxychloroquine.
This is from CNN.
You are in a risky population here, and you are taking this as a preventative treatment to ward off the virus, or in a worst case scenario, you are dealing with the virus, and you are in this vulnerable population. It will kill you. I cannot stress enough. This will kill you.
Chloroquine provides no benefit against coronavirus, and at worst, could be dangerous.
Once again, touting the unproven and possibly unsafe drug he's taking.
Allergic reactions, heart arrhythmias, liver injury, seizures. What kind of a doctor prescribes a drug that doesn't work and might be unsafe and has those side effects?
Is that irresponsible of him to be taking hydroxychloroquine, and why do they care?
I commend him for coming out publicly and sharing with his people that he is taking this drug, that it is completely safe, and that doctors need to start prescribing it immediately.
I just have to say, it's very strange that someone's choice of medication would be seen as a political story. Do you think?
Well, it certainly has become a political story, and that's really the sad part of it. That, let's go here. Oh, you're not going to be able to see my wonderful animations. Let's see. How do I do that? Well, all right. We're just going to move it out of the way. So, according to, this is from 2017. This is the 50 most dangerous medicinal drugs, right? And this has been compiled by HealthGrove for the Food and Drug Administration from 2004 to 2015. And here are some of the ones that make the list. Oxycodone is number 31. Acetaminophen, Tylenol is number 39. Aspirin is number 44. You know what doesn't make the list? Hydrochloroquine doesn't even make the list. Even though it's been around for over 60 years, it is not one of the most dangerous drugs. Here's the Journal of Antimicrobial Agents, right? As of March 20th, 2020. And while this was a small study, it says 20 cases were treated in this study and showed a significant reduction of the viral carriage at D6 post-inclusion compared to controls, and much lower average carrying duration than reported of untreated patients in the literature. Azithromycin added to the hydrochloroquine was significantly more efficient for the virus elimination. Despite its small sample size, our survey shows that hydrochloroquine treatment is significantly associated with the viral load reduction, disappearances in COVID-19 patients, and its effects is reinforced by erythromycin. And I have friends who have taken this who are first responders and they swear by it. And, what's a shame now, though, is that amidst all of the politicalization of this, according to the New York Times, as of today, or no, yesterday, sorry, 2 days ago, sorry, now they're having a hard time getting enough people into the studies to see whether or not it works or not. How ridiculous is that? Think about that. So they politicize the drug because, some of the media is whatever Trump does is wonderful. Some of the media is whatever Trump does is horrible. And because of that, now we have the studies are having more difficulty all of a sudden getting people to enroll in the studies. So whose fault is that? I blame the media. I blame the media in making this into a bigger deal than it should have been, right? What about the news? Like, can we trust the news? I don't think we can trust the news. I've heard this story now from numerous places. I've also looked online on whether or not China blocked domestic flights while they also allowed for international flights out of Wuhan. So they blocked domestic flights from Wuhan to Beijing and to other parts of the country, but meanwhile left the international air, open. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. And I've seen some stories that talk about it not being true. I've also seen some stories that say it's true, right? So I have no idea. Here is what I found, though, which totally goes against the idea that it's not true, although I can't be sure, right? And this is from CNBC. You'd think they're a respected news outlet. This is published February 6th. It says here, the Civil Administration of China has requested local airlines to keep operating international flights to countries that have not placed restrictions on inbound travel. So what's that? Like, it's like, who can we trust? How do we get a clear story? I don't know. And I'm getting so frustrated from it. Let's proceed. So this is New York City now. New York City is a ghost town. And this lockdown, I thought it was so that we could flatten the curve, right? Wasn't the whole point to flatten the curve? That's what I kept hearing. Flatten the curve, flatten the curve, flatten the curve. And not only was it supposed to be flattening the curve, like as soon as we flattened the curve, why were we flattening the curve? We were flattening the curve so that our hospitals wouldn't get inundated and people therefore wouldn't die who needed incubation or needed, something that the hospitals could provide. That's not happened anywhere. No hospital in New York City or anywhere else has been so maxed out that we haven't been able to service every single person. Here's the real data, okay? And this is just so insane. And I, like I said, this is the stuff I could find. In Pennsylvania, right? This was as of I think 2 days ago. Under 45 years old, only 33 people have died. Over 100 years old, 70 people have died. Now, every death obviously is a death. But, in the last 2.5 months with the highways closed, I'm sure that there's been tens of thousands of deaths that didn't happen because the highways were closed. Are we now going to have an argument that we should keep highways closed forever so that we keep those deaths from happening? Why is Pennsylvania locked down when there have been when 2/3 of the people who have died are over 100 years old? Why don't people who are over 80 years old just stay indoors? Why does the whole economy have to go into the shitter when the rest of the world could actually move on? It's not only Pennsylvania, though. Here's Illinois. Under 60 years old, only 605 people have died. Now, that's a lot of people. I'm not trying to make little light of that. But over 80 years old, almost 2,000 people have died. Once again, if you're under 60 years old, the chances of you having a problem is very small. And yet we're shutting down states. We're shutting down our entire economy. And if you have a business, fortunately, most of my clients, my business, we're online. We're fine. But it's insane how many small businesses are being shut down and will not reopen because of what's going on in our government and what's going on in our politics and what's going on with every area of our life. And it just is insane. I don't have all the solutions. I have some solutions. We'll get to that. In Michigan, we keep hearing about the crazy governor in Michigan or the wonderful governor in Michigan, depending on which news channel you listen to. If you're under 40-year-olds, 253 have died. Over 70, 3,491 people have died. That means more than 90% of the deaths have been over 70 years old. And yet we're keeping people locked down. We're keeping things shut down so that, for what reason? My daughter was supposed to graduate from high school today. She was supposed to walk in high school graduation. And even though the odds of death from someone who's 18 years old is so remote that it's you have a higher chance probably of getting struck by lightning or getting bitten by a shark. There was no graduation. The kids could not walk in graduation. Why? Why is this happening? Massachusetts, Connecticut, all the stats seem similar every place I looked. And it's not just in the US, it's worldwide, in Italy, Spain, UK. I couldn't find more recent data than this. I apologize, I'm not a news person, I'm a business coach. But here, according to Bloomberg, okay, now this was from like late March, so maybe it's changed, but I don't think it's changed that much. This is the median death, right? So the average age of someone infected was 63, but the median age of death was 80.5. And yet, like, the whole economy is being shut down. And it gets worse than that because look at this. This is also Italy. This is the percent of illnesses that these people had who died. 48.5 had 3 or more illnesses. That means they had diabetes, they had high blood pressure, they had 3 things that qualified them for a challenge. In New York, they're not distinguishing, maybe they are now, if you die of coronavirus versus you die with coronavirus. And I know in Colorado, this actually created a big uproar because someone died with like a point, and I'm going to get the number wrong and I'll exaggerate, but it's like 0.5% alcohol blood level, right? It was like, no, like a 5% blood alcohol level. You had to drink the equivalent of 2 bottles of Jack Daniels in an hour to have that. The person died of alcohol poisoning. But because they also had COVID, they were considered a COVID death. I have a brother-in-law who is a police officer who has to investigate deaths right now, has told me that they just say COVID. That's what they do. So the numbers are inflated as they are. And yet, like, we're all on lockdown, and it seems insane. It seems absolutely insane. Governor Cuomo, the press is making him into a hero. And I was so for the lockdown when it first happened. Come March 13th was my birthday. March 14th, we left the city, as every other wealthy person who could afford to leave New York City did. We went out to the Hamptons. Some of our friends went down to Florida. Some of our other friends went to Connecticut. This is going to destroy New York. Even if most people move back, which I don't imagine most people will, this is the base that pays all the taxes for New York, right? And we had the U.S. Navy hospital, floating hospital, the Comfort, come in. We didn't use it, right? We turned the Javits Center into a medical station. Look how big it was. We didn't use it. Yet, in his wisdom, Cuomo, who's been on CNN God knows how many times, and they won't ask him the question, right? He put seniors who were in nursing homes and were then diagnosed with COVID back into the nursing home. So, here's the article from NBC News, right? It says coronavirus spreads in a New York nursing home, forced to take recovering patients. So I want to read you this. I mean, to me, it's insane. The coronavirus patient began arriving the last week of March. transferred to the Gerwin Jewish Nursing and Rehabilitation Center under a New York State mandate requiring nursing homes to accept those recovering from COVID-19, even if they might still be contagious. At that time, the Long Island nursing home had only one known resident who had contracted the virus, according to the facility's president and CEO, Stuart Almer. A month later, Gerwin is battling an outbreak that killed 24 residents, only 3 of whom were hospital transfers, and 1 staff member who worked in housekeeping, Almer said. And the nursing home is still mandated to take in recovering hospital patients known to have the virus, potentially increasing its spread in the facility. You want to know why New York has so many deaths? This is part of the reason. They have put people who have coronavirus in with the people that are most susceptible, and yet everyone else still has to be on lockdown. So this was where was this? Well, I tried to. If I had the parts working, you'd see where all these things came from. But the other one was CNBC. This one is talking about how even though now New York has appointed an outside counsel to investigate Cuomo, right? Every network, ABC and CBS Evening News, did not report on this. Instead, CBS and NBC focused on the efforts of congressional Democrats to investigate President Trump for firing Inspector General, which is his right to do. So instead of focusing, let's just see, if I can get here. Yeah, NBC Nightly News may have been the lone network to dare report on how Democratic New York Governor Andrew Cuomo had forced nursing homes to take in COVID patients and then deny them access to the state supply of personal protective equipment last week. But come Wednesday, they were just as silent as ABC's World News Tonight and CBS Evening News on reporting on calls to appoint an outside counsel and investigate. How insane is that? I don't remember the state, but I think it might be Pennsylvania. It might be New Jersey. I don't remember. But one of the states, the person who makes the medical decisions for the state also required seniors aging centers to take in people with COVID, except she took her mother out. So she took her mother out of a nursing home so that everyone else's mother could be at risk and die. It's politics. I don't know if she's a Republican. I don't know if she's a Democrat. Who knows? This was the cover of the New York Post today. One man's plea, right? It needs to end now. There is no date picked even. We're not even in phase 1 in New York City. And here's the Big Apple is dying. Its streets are empty. Tens of thousands have been plunged into poverty. Our leaders have no plans, no answers. New Yorkers have already learned to socially distance. Businesses can adjust. The elderly and infirm can continue to be isolated. You know, when we first came out here to the Hamptons, and I thought all of this was a great idea, I really thought that, this was the smart thing to do. We didn't know what was going to happen. And so I assumed, incorrectly so, that Florida was going to be hit so hard because they didn't quarantine. But that hasn't happened. And when Georgia reopened, they said that it was going to get hit so hard. And that hasn't happened. And yet the press still isn't covering the fact that Georgia didn't have the big spike that they were supposed to have. Florida has never had the spike because that governor was smarter than Cuomo and that he protected senior citizens and never went to the full kind of lockdown. Although he's not perfect either because the governor of Florida right now has opened all the hotels. But if you have an Airbnb or VRBO, you can't rent it to outside. You can't rent it. So yet it's safe for people to travel from throughout the country and stay at a hotel, but it's not safe to rent out your house. I don't know. Maybe it's because he gets a lot of funding from the hotel industry and the travel industry. Just a guess. I mean, I'm not trying to make Republicans right or Democrats right. It's insane on both sides. I wanted to show this video too, which I downloaded from the internet the other day, because I think this also is just insane. Do we remember? Do you guys? I don't know if I'm older than most who are watching or younger than most. I'm going to be 50 this year, but I remember when Joe Biden was a joke. Not that he's Mr. Serious now, but I want to play what Democrats used to think of Joe Biden, what the news used to think of Joe Biden. So let's play that real quick.
Is a controversy. 3 weeks ago at a debate at the Iowa State Fair, he used phrases identical to those delivered by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock.
Biden seemed to be claiming Kinnock's vision and life as his own.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania don't come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground and then come up and play football.
It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
The notion that every thought or notion or idea you'd have to go back and find and attribute to someone, I think is, quite frankly, ludicrous.
The problem here is that Senator Biden told his audience he'd just been thinking about these things, and he failed to give any credit at all to his famous British speechwriter.
You know, I was thinking on the way over here. Now that's a little too much, because as you point out, what's behind the words? What's there? And a lot of people, the rap on Biden has always been that it's just a surface.
I should have said, to paraphrase Neil Kinnock, it's the only time I didn't, and all the times I've ever used it.
But CBS News found a tape of a second instance.
It reappeared in the New York Times with a new charge, that Biden had appropriated a famous litany from the late Robert Kennedy about what the gross national product cannot measure.
It cannot measure the health of our children,
The health of our children,
the quality of our education,
the quality of their education,
the joy of their play,
or the joy of their play.
Biden gave Kennedy no credit. He has also quoted or paraphrased John Kennedy, Hubert Humphrey, and British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock, all without credit.
Joseph Biden admitted today that he committed plagiarism when he was in law school. He said it was a mistake, but that it was unintentional.
He quoted 5 pages of someone else's work without proper citation.
I've done some dumb things, and I'll do dumb things again.
He was given an F.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been dumb.
To the political community in Washington, it all seems of a piece. Plagiarism at law school, plagiarism on the stump.
The great communicator. Strike that. The great imitator.
You don't steal verbatim, or when you do, as he did 99% of the time, you give credit.
Biden's critics say he sells himself.
Before I go any further, I see some people like ripping on Trump and that he does it or Melania does it. Yeah, I'm not saying that they're any better. What I am saying, though, is one, that it's clear who Trump is. We, like the media and everyone else, wants to pretend that the rest of the politicians of the world who just carry around an act are any different, and they're not. And then in addition to that, ask Ted Koppel, ask any of these good people if they're still alive. I don't even know if Ted Koppel's still alive, what they think of Biden right now, and I bet you they praise him to like he's the next Messiah, because everyone is so full of shit, and that's my point.
As a man whose words and visions can inspire a new generation in politics, but if the thoughts, phrases, and visions really belong to others, it's a form of false advertising.
Is it a wise idea, though, to take something that personal, anyway, from another politician and try and appropriate it to your own campaign?
I think it was a stupid thing to appropriate material that was really very personal, that was someone else's.
Most people didn't know who he was. Joe Biden, and now they're going to say, oh yeah, he's the guy who plagiarized. That's
a lot of people.
Politically, that's devastating.
These clips are devastating. He looks like a Joe Biden wind-up doll with somebody else's words coming out.
If they're going to do things that are stupid as well as immoral, then they're probably too dumb to have the job of president.
Voters are going to have to decide whether he was dishonest or dumb.
Senator Joseph Biden may have more explaining to do.
The new questions stem from taped remarks of Biden during an April campaign appearance in New Hampshire.
I went to law.
It's just the hypocrisy. That's really what I'm talking about. It's not, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to call him out any more or worse than anyone else. I think, what's insane though is, and I did want to show this because Lisa joined us and said this, that in the news, trying to send contagious people to travel in the United States. That may be true. That might not be true. I don't really know. That's what I thought. Then I started doing some research and I found some stories that say that that's not true, that Trump was wrong when he said that. And I had heard it like months ago. So I was wondering, like, why wasn't anyone talking about it? But then I saw that there were stories about it that were said that that wasn't true. Then I found other stories, like from CNBC that I showed earlier, that showed it was clearly true. And so who knows? Who knows, like, what is really going on? So, I did a interview for Steal Our Winners, which is our monthly continuity program where, I interview a bunch of great internet marketers in all different areas, media buying, et cetera. And I was interviewing Alex Jeffries the other day, and he mentioned one of his new favorite books that he ranks right up there with Ready, Fire, Aim by one of my mentors, Michael Masterson, Mark Ford, is The Road to Less Stupid, I think. I think that's the name of the book, The Road to Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham, I believe. And I started reading it, and I've read about half of it, and I love it. It's actually really good, and it reminded me of a report that I had written. And really, the book, The Road to Less Stupid, and my report, The Hidden Obstacles. Let's see if I can pull this up for a second here. Where is my stuff? There it is. The Hidden Obstacles to Success are both about the same thing at the end of the day. It's about not really understanding how to leverage your own knowledge, how to actually spend time thinking. And my argument has always been that most people spend no time thinking, that the only time that I know how to think, or when I really truly am thinking, is when I open up my journal, right, and sit down for a half an hour to an hour each and every day. I miss days here and there. I'm not perfect. And grapple with a question. And when I don't do that, I'm moving from one thing to the other. And yeah, I might spend a minute here thinking about something or a minute there thinking about something, but it's just not, whoops, I still have Lisa's thing up there. Sorry about that, Lisa. Let's see, let me get rid of that. There we go. Without this, I know I'd be in a totally different place. It was in my journals that I first created the U diagram that became the manifesto that got downloaded millions of times. It was in my journal that I actually started to think about theory of constraints. And so what I wanted to do is actually give everyone the hidden obstacles of success, which is what you saw on screen a second ago. And I'm going to put it in our group, which is a free group. I would love to show you the group for long periods of time, but believe it or not, let me see. I'm looking for that. Hold on. Where is that? I got in trouble for that the other day from Facebook. Well, let me go to this scene for a second. Hopefully that's no different. Hold on. There we go. All right. Let me play there. I should there. Hopefully. Let's see. There. Hopefully you guys see that. Do you see the conversion club group? Let me know if you can see that. And I also want to open this report and tell you about it. But I'm going to post it in there tomorrow, or tonight rather, for free. And I just want it as a gift to everyone, so that you can start applying. I wrote this how long ago did I read it? I wrote it over a decade ago. And really what it's about is learning how to think for yourself. And I just think that, especially, I don't have any answers other than I think that most people could benefit a lot by thinking for themselves right now, because it's clear that there's very few people thinking with our best interests at heart. And that's a shame, because I didn't used to feel that way. But yet I think it is that way these days. And I want to answer any questions that I can for everyone, but I just really wanted to share what was on my mind. And next Tuesday, we'll be back to live streams, and I'll be here to cover more content about mental models, and I'll cover more information about business growth, maybe specifically different tactics that you can use right now. But I thought today, just this morning, as I was watching the news, and just getting more and more aggravated that there's no one to trust, I just thought, this is insane. This is truly insane. And I hope, I just heard about Joe Rogan like a couple days ago sold, the rights for the next 4 years to his podcast and his video podcast away from YouTube, which I think is fantastic because YouTube has been crunching down on creators for too long. And so he's going to Spotify, 4-year contract, $100 million. I think those are the numbers. And if that's the case, good for him. And I'm glad that YouTube is going to lose one of their best creators, if not one of their biggest draws. They deserve to. They've been shadow banning and doing so many things that are so wrong. I also have heard that the attorney generals are now before the coronavirus, all 50 states attorney generals were going after Facebook, going after Google, going after Amazon. And then we had this happen, and I heard that now the attorney generals are going back after Google. I hope that's the case. I really do, because these companies have way too much power, especially when they get to decide what news is okay for us to hear and what news is not. In the beginning, the world, like YouTube, was banning people and shadow banning their content if they disagreed with the World Health Organization. Turns out the World Health Organization was lying. So why is that okay? Why is it okay for YouTube to decide that alternative media is not okay? It was alternative media that published Dr. Atkins when the American Medical Association wanted to kick him out and take away his license for preaching a ketogenic diet that nowadays seems to be so much more accepted, except by the AMA. It's always been alternative media that's been a voice. And part of the reason that we have the challenges that we have at Agora is because alternative media now is frowned upon, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Google, whether it's any of these major tech platforms. They get to decide what we can listen to and what we can't. And creators are totally dependent on them. And so when they create a video and it gets banned, they lose out on the time, energy, and effort that they put into it. Or if they leave it on there, but they shadow ban it, meaning that it's hard to find, it can't be found, or it gets its monetization taken away, then, the creator suffers. And that's part of the reason I think, I don't know Rogan, so I can't say for sure, but that's one of the reasons why Rogan used to do live streams. And I used to love watching his live streams. But if someone said something wrong, YouTube would pull the live stream. Like, either we're adults and we can monitor things for ourselves, or we live in a nanny state that is consistently just infringing upon our freedoms, and it's just ridiculous. So, all right. Anyway, so let me just cover what's in the report. Like I said, totally free, not even an opt-in. Just join our group, which you don't even have to opt in for that. And the group is the Conversion Club group. There you see it. I'll have to take it off because, when I tried to boost the video from the last one, I was told that because I was claiming that Facebook endorses this by putting this thing that you see here on the screen. Join our free Facebook group, the Conversion Club group. So anyway, as you can see, the first part of this is a little bit self-aggrandizing, and I apologize for that. I felt the need to be more self-aggrandizing when I was younger. It's about how I kind of uncovered the idea of the difference between my best clients and my worst clients. Then I explained that this is a report on thinking, and what kind of thinking you really need to do to get rich, and how if you think you're thinking, I ask you to think again, and why thinking is such hard work. And if you don't think it's hard work, you're probably not thinking. Let's see, accurate thinking, why you must see things as they really are. Let's see. Focus thinking, how most people are very fuzzy about the things that are most important to them. correct thinking, how to get clear about really what you need to do to get the success you want. And then I share with you the thinking tools that I've used in my life that have made me smarter, that I believe if you use, they will make you smarter. And I give you pages right out of my journal. So, yeah, so remember this is 10 years old, so maybe some of my beliefs have changed, but here, I'm trying to see if I can just, there. So, yeah, here's 20 questions that I ask myself every Sunday, right? And my answers. Here's sentence stems, right? Like, so this is, this is getting a glimpse of how I use my thinking tool with the hope that you'll use it the same way. Like I said, we don't even sell Founders Club anymore. Not trying to get you into some kind of continuity program. I'm not even going to know who you are. You're more than free to share it with whoever. I would like it if instead of sharing it, you just send people into the conversion club. You can always unjoin the group if you don't feel it's for you, and we will never contact you because we don't have that access to that information anyway. But would love the chance to at least engage. So with that said, now that's all I had on my mind. I was going to talk about mental models. I don't feel like talking about mental models today. Instead, I'd like to I'd like to answer some questions and spend some time just hearing what you guys have to say. It used to be like Billy asks an honest question. How can we say don't trust the media news, but at the same time use it to make reference points? I'm not. What I'm saying is that you're getting conflicting information from both sides. I don't know who to trust anymore. Like I said, I don't know if it's true that China had blocked domestic flights and allowed international flights, or it didn't. I just don't know anymore because I've heard it too many different stories. I've heard that hydrochloroquine is actually something that is beneficial, and then I've heard that it will kill you from Fox Business and CNN. It seems like, CNN's pretty easy to understand. Whatever Donald Trump says, they say the opposite. They're anti-Trump, right? They're orange man bad. That's theirs. For the most part, Fox is orange man good. And, so when he's doing something wrong, they're not reporting it either. And so they're really, at least Fox is clear who they are. MSNBC is clear about who they are. CNN, to me, is the worst because they pretend that they're honest. Chris Cuomo, he pretended he was in quarantine. Meanwhile, he was on the streets of the Hamptons. And then he has the gall to criticize other people in Central Park without their masks on when he was caught, when he had COVID, walking around without a mask. Are you kidding me? And then he has his brother on and he gets to do jokes with him. His brother, who's probably been responsible for more people dying of COVID than anyone in the country. I mean, it's insane. I think, and this is not the Trump reelection campaign. I've got a lot of problems with Trump too, but at least it's clear who he is. He doesn't pretend he's something that he's not, which pretty much every other politician in the world. I used to like Joseph Lieberman. I used to think he was a great senator from Connecticut. He now represents China. He's a lobbyist for China. He's a lobbyist for China. And we know we can't trust China. That's obvious. China claims that only 200 people died in Tiananmen Square. Meanwhile, according to the BBC and everyone else, when China was still considered not the wonderful country that it is, they said at least 10,000 people were killed. That at least 1 million Muslims are held in concentration camps there. Now, the civil rights stuff is insane. I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I don't have that many answers. I'm just upset. I'm upset because I just can't believe that the country that I love has turned into this, that there's no one to trust. I think both sides are sleazy. I just can't believe that there isn't like, and then, you would think then hopefully you could get like accurate stuff on YouTube, but you can't because YouTube will shut down people who disagree with the WHO. Facebook has a problem with anything that doesn't make the world a happy place. Like, where do we go in a group, as a group, to get the truth? I mean, I stopped reading the New York Times a gazillion years ago because I couldn't trust it. All right, so let me kind of scroll through here. If you haven't commented, or even if you have, tell me where you're from. If this is the first time, I promise you this is not generally how my normal live streams are. As you can see, I'm a little bit worked up, and I apologize for that. But I'm just so sick and tired of it. I love my buddy Tom Beal. I hope you're still here, brother. Chris Vogelman. Hey. Good client of mine. Greece. How's Greece doing? Charlotte, I know you're on these quite often. I'm curious how Greece is doing. Pam saying, great to see me. Great to see you too, Pam. So hopefully, yeah, I was missing the gym too. Did you hear about I think it was in New Jersey that, and that's a whole nother thing, right? Like, I don't remember the state now. Well, I saw in New Jersey that there were state troopers that were sent by the governor to close the gym down, and the state troopers just refused to do it, which was great. They told everyone they were in violation, and then they said, have a nice day, and they let them all work out. But I think it's California, but I could be off, so I apologize because, like I said, I'm not a newscaster or a news reporter. But there was one state, or it might have been Illinois, where, they're letting people out of jail. They're letting, like, not just like non-violent offenders, violent offenders, they're letting out of jail because of COVID. So this one violent offender, they let out of jail. They caught him trying to steal a car. They gave him a citation because they're not putting people in jail. Then he tried to steal the car again. They gave him another citation. That time he was caught with crystal meth. Then he was caught doing something else. They gave him another citation. And lo and behold, he stabbed someone to death. Meanwhile, that same state locked up a small business entrepreneur who opened their business. So opening your business puts you in jail. Trying to steal a car with crystal meth on you does not get you in jail. Are we insane? Like, it just seems crazy. I don't understand why. Like, is the only reason that, like, the press hasn't gone after Cuomo is because he's a Democrat? Is that the only reason? Like, and if that's the case, then I hold them responsible for keeping us here in New York on lockdown. Like, I don't understand what's going on. All right, so as we scroll down. Gold Coast, Australia. How is it in Australia? Have you guys opened up? I'm curious about Australia. Like, I know that at least Australia is holding China accountable, and I'm glad to hear it. If the news is correct. Andrew, hey, Rich, you're the only person I intentionally tune into for scheduled live streams. I appreciate the deep insight you provide. Cool. Thanks, man. Very cool. All right. I'm not going to put so many congratulatory ones on. I do want to talk to you about if you've got anything interesting to share, or if you have any questions, business oriented. I mean, we're very lucky, right? We're online entrepreneurs. Like, if you can't make your online business work right now, then it's not going to get easier when the world turns back on. But I hope the cities rebound, but I don't think they're going to. I have no plans of moving back to New York. And I can't imagine that Trump is going to bail out California and New York. I don't see why he should, especially with California being a sanctuary state and New York being Democrat. Like, what's the incentive for him? I don't see it. And why should the rest of the country pay for Cuomo's idiocy? I don't know. Nigeria's in the house. Colombia's in the house. Michigan's in the house. Columbus, Ohio. London. Sydney, Australia. Hawaii. Yeah, I mean, Hawaii arrested someone who came from New York when they were on the beach. Like, really? Like, with the deaths the way they are, can we not be out in public? it just seems insane to me. Uh, Pennsylvania in the house. Yes, the drug has been around for 65 years. Very cool. Okay, everybody heard everything. Very cool. I only trust Hannity and Tucker on Fox Nation. I can't trust Hannity. Tucker seems to be one of the honest ones. I met Laura Ingraham once. I like her as a person. I think she does tell the truth more often than not. And she's not as much of an ideologue as Hannity. Not that I dislike Hannity, not that I dislike anyone. It's just a question of whether I can trust them or not. And you're never going to hear Hannity say a bad word about Trump. The fake news, I think at least the beautiful thing is at least now the news is exposed as fake. Like, I don't think you can put you can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle or the tube or whatever the saying is. It's clear now. What's shocking to me is that still there's a percentage of the population that believes what they throw on the air. And it's just a shame. For many years, I lived by whatever the news says. I believe the exact opposite, and the exact opposite has turned out to be correct way more often than not. Isn't that a shame? Like, what makes our society the society it is the fact that the press will hold the powers that be accountable. Look, I'm pretty certain that Obama did these horrible things to Trump, but I'm pretty certain that probably Bush did horrible things, and before Bush did horrible things, Clinton did horrible things. You don't get to be president without being somewhat shady. That's just the reality of the way it is, right? And now it's like I just don't. We can't hold anyone accountable for anything anymore. And it's Democrats, Trump's all bad. Republicans, Trump is all great. Like, it makes no sense to me. And anyone who has any sense can't run for office because their past will be exposed. And most people have done stupid things in their life. I know I've done a ton of stupid things in my life. There's always been deception being broadcast to the masses, but it's more clearly apparent now with all the ways we communicate as a society. The age of revealing is here. I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I do think that things were more honest in the past. I think there was maybe, there was always a bias in the media, but it wasn't like this. I don't think it was like this. Okay. Rich, with you on this one. Wow, even down there, they have a lockdown in power. Crazy. South Africa. Crazy that the whole world. So yeah, I'm really upset about my daughter's graduation. Not that I really loved my high school graduation. I could have lived without it, but the fact that it was robbed from her, for what? I don't get it. Like, why couldn't all the kids at least gather? Like, why did my daughter have to spend the last 2.5 months doing online classes? I'm in Michigan and have lost track of the number of people I know that have lost jobs or on the verge of losing their small business. It's like 25% of the population now has lost their job. And I'm not talking about the unemployment rate, although they say the real unemployment rate is somewhere around 30%. 1 in 4 people have lost their jobs. Like, at what point is this enough? And for what? Like, at the end of the day, this is what happened to the flu? Like, did no one die from the flu the last 2 months? Like, and what about, people die every day, and it's a sad thing, and I don't ever want to make light of it, because when it's someone that you know and you care about, it means a lot. But people die on the highway. People die in all kinds of things. And if we all just stayed home, no one would die except by slipping and falling in the shower and other stupid things. But that doesn't mean we stay home. But this will wake people up, and maybe it's what's needed. I hope so, but I don't understand how things will be different. Like, how is the news ever going to be trusted again? How does that happen? Like, I don't know how it happens, and it makes me sad. Meanwhile, over 1 million healthcare workers have lost their jobs because they've gotten rid of all elective surgeries. not now they're reopening up in certain places, but not in New York yet, not in a bunch of other places. So meanwhile, like even the people that work in healthcare have gotten screwed. Um, I don't know that it's a planned occurrence. I find that hard to believe. Like whether you like, I saw someone else talking about the fact that isn't it strange that Bill Gates now is into vaccines. I find it hard to believe that in conspiracy theories that are so vast. I think like the most people can't keep a secret. And conspiracy theories that require lots of people to keep a secret forever seem to me to be a little bit out there. I granted there are a lot of shady things that go on in the world, but my dad taught me something a long time ago uh, that never let anyone know your secrets, and if you do, you'll always be safe. And I imagine that most people in power feel that way, and so the more a conspiracy requires a bunch of people, the less likely it stays a secret. Yes, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure are preludes to contacting COVID virus. Now, I've heard, right, that vitamin D deficiency um, can cause you to be much more susceptible to COVID. I wish I knew whether that was true or not. It would make sense because generally African Americans here in the U.S. have lower vitamin D because their skin doesn't absorb vitamin D the way the more pale you are, the more you absorb it, right? But if that's true, then my doctor's always had me on vitamin D, so I'm fortunate on that. But I just wish that there was more truth in the world, especially right now. Uh, yeah, why are some top licensed medical doctors banned from speaking on various platforms? I don't know. But there's all these other conspiracy theories that I don't believe, like 5G being a cause of it and stuff like that. Um, and then Gerald says, thanks to your president, this jackass, no testing, no contact tracing, because why? It was a joke. I don't know about that. Um, I don't really want the government, based on everything I know about the government, I don't want the government knowing everything about me. I don't really want Google and Facebook to know everything about me. I think our privacy is being violated. And I'm not such a fan of that. And I don't think there needs to be, especially when you see like parts in Florida where this really hasn't, the impact has been greatly minimized by keeping the at-risk population quarantined, but not the rest of the population. It's insane. We can't stop this agenda, whatever it is. Just make sure you have lots of liquid cash 6 to 8 months from now to purchase companies on sale as the market finally gets priced into a drop in consumerism. Yeah, that's for sure. There's no question that, as online entrepreneurs, like we have this righteous opportunity even right now to take over businesses that were offline that are sitting with tons of inventory and bring them online based on our skill set. And we can get them for dirt cheap. Who knows what the overall economy is going to do? It doesn't look good, although there's been so much money pumped into the economy that if things, if the lockdown goes away and it goes away quickly, things could happen and rebound much quicker than we might even believe. Let's see. Okay, let me start at the bottom and go up because it seems like there's too many. Watched The Irishman this past weekend. Someone said the only way 3 people keep a secret is if 2 of them are dead. Yeah, that's what I mean. And that's what my mob guys told me, and that's why I don't believe in. That's why I don't believe in big conspiracy theories. The vitamin D theory is so far only a correlation. Yeah, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying I'm happy I'm taking it. That's all. And I like Dr. Rhonda Fitzpatrick. I'm not saying that I have any knowledge to validate anything. I've always liked her. Privacy is an illusion, and that's a sad fact. And that's part of the reason why I'm so anti-big tech. I think that, it's great having Amazon, right? It's great that, like, especially at times like this, that I've been able to buy so many things and not been able to not get stuff. But at the same time, like, why is Walmart and Target and all these stores open while small businesses are not open? Why is it that, like, and I don't, like, why is Home Depot allowed to be open? Like, it doesn't make sense to me that big companies can be open and small ones can't. And what? We can't keep social distance in a small store, but we can keep it in a big store? It doesn't make any sense. That's a really long post, Christopher. I will read it after. Let's see. All right, I'm looking to see if there's any kind of questions. Let's see. I mean, Kim has a niece and her whole family got COVID and they were fine. And then we also have friends who are much older. My father and my father-in-law, my sister's husband's father, who was 93, he passed away from COVID. Who knows if Clayton Makepeace died of COVID or not? They say he wasn't. They tested him. People at my live stream supposedly had it. Todd Herman got it, and then it went. He was fine. It seems as if it's like the flu, and it doesn't seem that much more deadly than the flu. Let's see. And this is happening under Trump. Can you imagine if this had happened under an Obama presidency? There would be armed riots in the street. Who knows? I don't think it would have been. I think it would have. I've never been a big fan of Hillary Clinton either, so who knows? Yeah, I mean, I never thought there was a deep state, but what I do think is that every generation protects the people that were there prior because they don't want to be exposed when they leave. So I think like Attorney General Barr doesn't want to go after Obama because it sets a bad precedent, because like one of the things that makes America great is that does not happen. But the problem is that the cat's out of the bag now, right? Like now, if we don't do this kind of stuff, every president can violate the law. And I don't know. I just think it's bad. Let's see. If not, I can talk more about thinking. I do think that Sydney is good. Is Sydney good? Oh, that's good to hear. Have you guys completely opened up? We're starting to open up a bit at a time. But why even a bit at a time? Like at this point, like why can't we just be open? Like why is it that like, especially when we know that it only affects those that are at risk for the most part, right? Just like the flu. Why is this still even an issue? I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And I'm just so frustrated. But we don't, is it, Christopher says it's definitely deadlier than the flu, but is it? Do we know? I know it spreads a lot faster, especially because you don't come down with it right away. But I don't know, like, especially since, like, so many more people have it than they realize, right? So many people are asymptomatic that, like I was talking to Joe Schriefer, my boss at Agora, and we were talking about like him and his wife came back from Turks and Caicos with Kim and I, and then they were with I think his mother-in-law, and his mother-in-law got really sick like when they came home. And who knows? Maybe they were carrying it. Joe was in Florida with me for the live stream. I don't remember if Kim got really sick, but Kim's daughter Ileana got really sick, and they thought it was from serious stuff in her lungs, and they thought it was from something else, but who knows if that was COVID. And Ava, my daughter, got really sick. I might have the antibodies, and then if I have the antibodies, like why have I been walking around with a mask and gloves on for the last 3 months? Like it's insane. And when you look I was looking at some graphs when I was doing this research, and it really is no different than the flu or any other significant virus as far as like how it hits the older generation. And even though that's sad, and it's certainly nobody wants to lose grandma or grandpa, there's a big difference between someone in their 20s dying and someone in their 80s dying. The person in their 80s does not have that many years left as far as like the average death age, and someone in their 20s, you're robbing them of 50 years. And what have we done for the next generation except saddle them with so much debt, rob them of their best years now. Like, for what? Like, we've already gone so much in debt for the older generation, and now we've shut down the economy for the older generation. And it's not like I hate the older generation, but it does seem like everything's a little bit lopsided. Even Obamacare was about subsidizing health care for the old by having the young overpay. Like, when is it enough? Like, I want my kids' lives to be better than mine, and I want their kids to be better than theirs. And the way that society's stacking things up, it's so not like that. Um, but but let's see. Can we get to business? Yeah, I know viruses mutate, and supposedly, like, they might be getting less serious. Or who knows? Come fall, maybe we get that second thing and wipes out a lot more people. I mean, no one really knows. But what we do know is that it's destroyed the economy, and it will continue to destroy the economy. And that, like, governors should, like, what happened to the Bill of Rights? Like, who decided that the Bill of Rights are like, how is that? Like, I thought we were afforded those rights by our creator according to the Constitution, you know, and, like, no one could take those away from us. I didn't think our governors could take that away from us. I have a problem with that. And when I thought it was a good idea, I think most people stayed home when they thought it was a good idea. Now we're all getting antsy. A lot of people are not following the rules anymore. Those of us who are like, what are we doing here? I don't know. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, look, totally agree. Where is it? Adam Kosloff. Yeah, look, I read this book recently, and this isn't even that long ago, and it was written by a cardiologist. And the cardiologist said, if you're my friend and we're speaking out of the office, I would tell you that a ketone diet is probably the best diet to go on. Whether you believe that to be true or not is kind of irrelevant to this story. He said, but if you're in my office and I tell you that, I could lose my medical license. That's insane. And I'm not suggesting that doctors shouldn't have any rules. So I don't know what the solution is to all this. But it does seem like there's so much bureaucracy. And the American Medical Association has been wrong so many times and yet pretends like they're not. And there is so many new advances that do not get covered in med school. And so it just seems like there are so many areas where things are dysfunctional. And yet and then I've read that, like, some doctors think, well, only 1 out of 5 who got put on a respirator lived in New York. And then I've heard from others that, like, when you get put on a respirator, the likelihood of living goes way down. So who knows? But then my Kim's father had pneumonia 2 years ago, and he, like, stopped breathing and was put on a respirator and went into a coma, and then he came out of it. So, I'm not a doctor. I don't know these things. So let's talk about this. So what is my take on business trends post ISO? Well, I'll tell you that I feel very fortunate that I have an online business. I feel very fortunate that I help entrepreneurs grow online businesses. So from that standpoint, I'm very happy. I think that parts of the economy are going to rebound tremendously. And I think the online environment is going to be better than it ever was because that influx of money and spending is going to happen. The challenge is that, like, I think every retail business is going to be decimated. I used to be in the retailing business, and new is what sells. And I can't, it's like I tell people stories about, we used to turn our store 5 times a year, which meant that we would sell out our inventory 10% every week. That's what we had to do. And we used management. We managed by exception. So anything that was selling way higher than 10% each week, we wanted to reorder because that's how we'd make our season. And anything that was selling way lower than 10%, we needed to move it. And if moving it in someplace else in the store didn't make it sell better, then we'd need to mark it down and get it out of the store quick to make room for what was coming. Because we also had to have, if we're selling, the store did about $7.5 million. So that's what, $150,000 a week. And yeah, and so that meant we had to have $150,000 worth of retail clothing coming in each week. And if we're not getting rid of it, we could stack up, and then that would be a problem. So I can't imagine being closed for 2.5 months, reopening now with all clothes that are like, we were in the clothing business, but it could be anything that are all old. New is what sells in retail. And how do you get rid of the inventory? And if you have a restaurant, you just lost everything, right? So, and then, you know, the all the loans and stuff that were given are supposed to be 75% for employees, which makes sense. But if you have a small business, you still had to pay rent, you still had to pay all these things. Now it's been 2.5 months plus, and so now what? And now if you fire those employees, do you have to return the money? And if you did, but you paid it out, now it's a clusterfuck. And I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand. Well, I have my own theories of what I thought should have been done. They're probably way too complicated to actually happen. So I think if Trump is able to pass and Congress is able to pass um, the to make T&E 100% deductible like it used to be in business, like during the Reagan era, I think that travel and entertainment will have a huge surge, and I think that would be a great thing because that means restaurants could rebound. I think, though, that retailing, I think people have gotten used to buying stuff online, and I don't know that it's going to be. And I think retailers have been, most retailers are going to have to go bankrupt. And then if they're able to pull out of bankruptcy, I don't even know. I don't know that people are going to be. I mean, I think we're going to keep our social distance. I think that I don't know that that people are going to be rushing to be around lots of people. Although, you know, who knows? Um, but I did put up the let's see. Anyway, um, yeah, how do you turn tables when your seating capacity shrinks? Many business models are now broken. Um, yeah, and I think passing a lot of deregulation seems to be part of the answer, I guess. Um, there are some regulations that are good. I mean, I don't want to, I'm a libertarian, so at the end of the day, I'd prefer that there be as little as possible, but I do think that, corporations can do some evil things. And I think that, it's a shame that, like, CEOs aren't held responsible when their companies do bad things. Um, you know, I don't know what the answer is. I wish I did. I just know that being online is a lot safer than being offline. And knowing how to grow a business online is a very enviable position to be in right now. And that's only going to get better over time. I don't see how that changes. But I do hope that the challenges online are just as significant. 90% of the advertising money um, is not of the advertising money goes to Google and Facebook. I want to show you guys a video. I don't know if you guys saw this video. This was from my live stream um, that I wasn't allowed to show because of legal reasons. As crazy as this is, and when you see it, I think you'll agree that like I don't understand why you wouldn't be able to show this. But that's like companies are afraid. Hold on. I think you'll get a kick out of this. This is a deep fake video. Let me know if you've seen the deep fake video. Let's see here. Have you guys seen the deepfake video? Let me know. Okay, that's a good question, Ron. I will answer that question in a few minutes. Uh, let's see. All right. Okay, you haven't seen the deepfake. Cool. All right. We're looking for version 5 before um, before legal edits. Let's see. Thanks for listening to me too. I know I was venting a lot, um, and it's nice to have a platform to vent. I know that's not generally what I do here. All right, let me see. I got to first. Where is it? All right, all right. So you got to check this out. So this is a deep fake video where I become a lot of different people. But because I said like Facebook and I said Google, our lawyers were not too keen on me showing it. So let's see here. Share screen. All right. Okay. Can I do this? Yeah, there we go. All right, cool. This, how long of a video is this? Just, okay, it's 2.5 minutes. Can you see it? Yeah, you can see it. Okay, let me go like this. No, like that. Oh, that. There we go.
Artificial intelligence algorithms are one of the most incredible things that human beings have created so far. I mean, they enable us to do amazing things, like become anyone we want to be. Like Robert De Niro, for instance, a famous actor I've always admired. Taxi, The Godfather, classics, right? Or Brad Pitt. He played some really interesting roles. Fight Club, Benjamin Button, oh, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I just watched that one. And this face, I mean, who wouldn't want to be Brad Pitt for a day? Of course, there's Joe Rogan. So yeah, AI and digital algorithms are really cool. But there's something else about these big tech algorithms that's far more sinister. If you're an internet business owner, big tech companies like Facebook use algorithms to filter your content so that even the people that asked to see your content don't get to. And if you're running ads on their platform, these algorithms are currently driving your ad costs through the roof, which if you're an internet business owner really sucks. And in case you haven't noticed, Google has officially forgotten their rule about don't be evil. I mean, check out this chart. In a nutshell, what it amounts to is Google is now scraping everyone's website and stealing their content so they can put it at the top of the Google search result page. That way, they never leave the walled-in garden of Google and actually go to the website of the person who actually created the content itself. I guess Google's logic is, who cares about all the time and energy that website owners put into the content on their sites? Let's just take their content and use it for our site. And of course, if you're an internet business in e-commerce, then I don't even have to tell you about AI and algorithms because you deal with them every day. Because Amazon has the most powerful AI going. They know what everyone is going to buy next before they even do. And you know they control over half of the entire e-commerce market. So you don't have a choice but to answer to them if you have any kind of physical product to offer. And speaking of not having a choice, recently I realized that I didn't have a choice either. And that's why I decided to call on my friends to form the coalition.
Anyway, I just thought that was so cool. And it was stuff like that that we can't show because we're too scared. Too scared of Google, Facebook, etc. That would have been so fun to have released that video. Yeah, yeah. What about the mask? That's a great point. Not only is, let me get the here, hold on. Get rid of this for a second. Yeah, they told us to wear one. Well, first they told us not to wear one. That didn't make any difference. Then they told us to wear one, that it would make a difference. Now they tell us to wear it, but no one knows how to really wear them correctly. And if if you've seen any of the things on video where they show people like they put ink on it and then they have you touch it, and 90% of people who touch them completely wrong, if not more than that. And so it does no use. In fact, it makes it more likely that you'll probably have a problem, especially if you're wearing plastic gloves too. Yet we wear them, and probably makes us even more susceptible because we don't know how to take them off and on right. And yeah, just like it's insane, right? No, the Rogan the tats are from Amazon. I put them on from time to time. I desperately want to have sleeves, but my mom would kill me, and I'm scared of my mom, so I don't have it. But I don't know if like you guys knew that like more than 50% of the searches now like on Google do not leave Google because of the scraped content, which is insane, right? The scraped content is content that people like me, you, and other content creators created. And the whole idea with the search engine, the agreement was you could scrape our sites because people go to a search engine then to go someplace else. Now Google thinks like, well, we don't really want to send them to your site, but we'll take your content, thank you very much, and and we'll keep them on our site. Over half of the searches in Google do not leave Google. Um, yeah, try to wear sunglasses with the mask. It's crazy. Then your eyes get all foggy. Um, That's why I'm happy though about Joe Rogan leaving YouTube. I hope that they wake up. I hope YouTube wakes up and realizes it's their job to police the world. And I have a problem with them kicking off I don't even, I've never even watched InfoWars. But like to kick off that guy who says that Sandy Hook never happened. um, I have a problem with that as a Jew because, like, I don't think we should kick off Holocaust deniers off of YouTube. Let them be on. Like, and it doesn't bother me that they are on, but I think everyone's should be on. And it's like these platforms want to have the benefit of being public utilities by having no liability, and at the same time also want to police what they disagree with. And I have a problem. You can't have both. If you're going to police, then you should be responsible for everything that's on it. If you're not going to police, then you shouldn't be responsible for anything on it. But you cannot straddle. You can't decide what should be on and not, and then also have protection. It seems unfair. Um, yeah, I think we all have our favorite people now that we get information from. But, there used to be, like, look, when Ted Turner owned CNN, he was pretty liberal, but he was honest and he had people out in the field, like getting information, like an investigative journalism, like with the Harvey Weinstein thing, like NBC sat on that story. Was it NBC? I don't even remember. They sat on it. Like, it just seems unfair. The world seems to be a crazy place. All right, but there was a good question. So let's see, where is it? Da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, uh, I do think that we'll see a rise in in content creation, and that ultimately, if there are more Spotify's, Amazons, and things like that, I'd love them to branch more away from Hollywood, not to punish Hollywood or anything like that, but to go after more independent creators. I think that that's a great thing. If someone can create a huge following in YouTube, imagine what they could do when they're being seen by more of the world. I think it would be amazing, and I think hopefully Joe Rogan will start something where now this will happen more often. I already am a member of Spotify because my daughters want it, so I'm glad I have it now because I would have joined it to watch Rogan. Um, but I'm glad that they're not, like, how dare YouTube police Joe Rogan and profit from him at the same time? Like, okay. Yes, Ron Williams wanted to know what's the best way to convince small to medium businesses that they need to move their businesses online at this point and moving forward. I don't think it's going to be very hard, Ron. I think it should be relatively easy, actually. I think that one of the easiest things to do is if you have the chops to be able to partner with them and on anything that is sold, and that's an easy way. If you have cash, you could buy their stuff and sell it. Nick Shackelford, who's one of the contributors to Steal Our Winners, who one of his claim to fame was the fidget spinner. Like him and his girlfriend, I think it's his girlfriend. I don't think they're married. Like had a like activewear store, like workout type stuff. And if it wasn't for his ability to sell stuff online, they would have had a problem. But he was able to sell their stock out online. And I do think, though, that that might be the future. So back to the conversation of what we were talking about earlier, as far as like, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube with the news media, but maybe there'll be a whole new generation of content creators. The challenge with that is that content creators can't spend the amount of time that a news organization could to do investigative type stuff, to get to the root of stories. But it can be worldwide, that's for sure. And maybe maybe people's reputations will carry forward. I mean, look, that's one of the good things about humanity that at least I've seen is that having been in this space for 20 years, the gurus that are all like pictures in front of their cars, they come and go. Um, the guys that have that are all flash and no, or women that have all flash and no substance, they get exposed. Um, and it's only a matter of time. And you only have one reputation, and it carries with you. And when I did a launch back in 2012, like I was proud of the fact, even after being online for like 12 years, that I could have a button instead of a list of testimonials that was just like, click this button, it'll be a search of my name in quotes. You'll see 100,000+ pages about me, and you'd be hard pressed to find anything that's bad. That's not to say that sometimes people don't say bad things about me. Of course they do, but there's nothing really of substance. The challenge with that, though, is that, then there can be shenanigans going on. So, all right. Anyway, I love the fact that so many of you are here, and I love the fact that you guys listen to me. I don't think I want to go the whole time because I just don't see the value in me ranting and you guys listening. Let's see. Maybe Carlin has a question. Grand Canyon was number 1 for Grand Canyon tours, and traffic dropped precipitously in January because it was position 0, and they took away the organic number 1 listing too. Traffic dropped to 20% under that keyword, 0-click searches. Carlin, it wouldn't be surprising if Google now is in the, has gotten into that business. And if that's the case, it's the same thing that Amazon is doing, right? Like by having access to all the data, seeing what sells well, and then knocking off the things that sell well. And it's like we do all the legwork, but that's the case in every online platform. That's one of the problems I have. Like every platform that starts, they welcome direct response advertising because the online environment is a direct response platform. And as soon as they get to a certain size, they kick out, they jack up the terms of service and they kick us out. And yet they still, this is a very unknown little piece of data that I'd like to share with you guys. You could never be in them, so I'm not in them either. But there are affiliate programs for people that can bring in a lot of brand new advertisers to Google, to Facebook, to LinkedIn. And they do that because stupid money, which is what new advertisers are, jack up the prices because it's all an auction for the big brands. And so the big brands pay a lot more because stupid money comes in every month to jack up the prices to where it doesn't make sense. That's not known by a lot of people. They don't advertise that they have affiliate programs. Crazy, right? I mean, I don't know what the answers are. But I do know that the better you are as an entrepreneur and the more that you think for yourself, the better off you'll be. And that was what really motivated me to want to say something and to want to give you guys this report. So I'm going to post it here at the Conversion Club group. So if you're not a member now, you have a strong reason to be a member. And I'd love to hear what you think of it. And I hope it makes a difference for you. I would say that the stuff I share in there has made the biggest difference for me in the way I think, in the opportunities I see, etc. And then, and that's for me the big takeaway. The big takeaway is that the person that you can trust the most is yourself. The person that you will learn the most from is yourself. But you have to harness that information. You have to leverage it. You have to capture it. And most sadly, most people don't. And if we all thought for ourselves more, I think we'd be in a better world. I think if we could all learn from our experience more in a better way, in a more profound way, I think we'd be all better off for it. And I think that as entrepreneurs, the only thing that we really have at the end of the day is our own resourcefulness, our own ability to know when it is to pivot, our own confidence that we can handle whatever comes up. And that confidence comes from having spent time thinking, spending time doing too, but reflecting on that doing so that you're consistently getting better. And that when you come across a good idea, you capture it. And I think, it's not even a question Billy, of trusting me. Like, be careful who you trust, period. Because the world just seems full of people that want to gain your trust and then somehow use it in a bad way. And I think people should be less, but not less trusting, but more skeptical. How about that? Like, vet everything, trust but verify. And just because someone has a position or just because other people trust someone, I don't think that's a good enough reason. I mean, hell, you know, like I would not think that, I just wouldn't think that that society could be this off. I really couldn't. And I really hope that the report does some value for you guys. And if it does, that's my way of saying thank you for listening and and I will be back in my kind of more tight space of what I do best, which is really just helping you guys understand business better to grow your businesses. And I have a lot of stuff to share. One thing that I want to tell you guys about. So I'm sharing this report, but I do think that if you really are, if you get into the idea of journaling every day and you're not sure what to journal about, The Road Less Stupid seems like a really good book too. He throws a lot of questions your way. And I learned from Stephen Pierce, who was someone who mentored me over a decade ago, almost 15 or 16 years ago, that he collected questions. And I always remembered that. And I've done a decent job of collecting my own questions over time. And so whenever I find a lot of good questions in a book, I always grab them because they're thinking tools. And so if you spend an hour a day thinking, your life will you will connect so many more dots than you're capable of doing it now. So join the Facebook group. Hopefully, I'll be able to boost this post, but I highly doubt it. I haven't been able to the last two or three because of what this thing is here. But if that's the case, that's the case. So be it. And Carlin wants to know how Stephen Pierce is. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him in a long time. He got divorced, and I spent closer with Alicia than I am with Stephen. Yeah. So anyway, thanks for listening. I feel better at least having shared what I thought and having at least you guys feel the same way. It lets me know that I'm not crazy and I'm not alone. And we'll get through this together. And I plan on doing these every Tuesday, Thursday from now until whenever I can't do them anymore. But certainly way after the lockdown, I'm going to be changing locations. I won't be in the gym in the Hamptons anymore. I'll be back in Florida at some point. And at some point I want to do some from my chair too, where I sit and read. So maybe on Tuesday I'll do half and half. This way I can actually maybe even share some stuff from my journal that, some things that have been profound that I've kind of come across. But until next Tuesday, to Higher Profits Beyond, Rich Sheffrin, over and out.